Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. Is it worth paying an advisor 1% to manage your money? Now, when it comes to doing a good job on a YouTube video, I think a lot of the times you have to be willing to check your emotions or your personal biases at the door, and that is what I've tried to do for this video. Recently, I've seen a few headlines from articles trying to promote the benefits of working with a financial advisor. The first one is Charles Schwab's secret to doubling your retirement fund. In this article, Schwab states that the average account balance of a client who works with a Schwab advisor is about $500,000, which is significantly higher than clients who are not working directly with an advisor. The other one I recently saw came from a brand called Personal Capital. Well, formerly known as Personal Capital, now known as Empower. They said that the clients who use their services and their platform have a median net worth of $829,000, which is significantly higher than the median net worth of the typical American, which comes in at just $122,000. There are very clear differences between these net worths and these account balances, but I do think we have to be careful when interpreting this data, because I think this data is suffering from the confusion between correlation and causation. The way they're using this data in their marketing materials is to present to you the idea that if you work with their advisors as well, you too will be able to reach the upper echelons of wealth. Or we could look at stats like only 35% of Americans work with financial advisors, compared to 70% of American millionaires who work with financial advisors. And while a great advisor can absolutely be a helping hand on your wealth building journey, I think we have to keep in mind that it tends to be those who have more in assets who are more likely to seek out advice from an advisor. If you have, say, $10,000 in investments, you're probably not likely to be someone who's going to seek out help from a financial advisor. However, if you have, say, $750,000 or a couple $1,000,000, you're more likely to reach out to a financial advisor for assistance. So I think the candidate pool for people who are looking at a guide from financial advisors tends to be a wealthier subset of people. I really do think that there comes a certain level of wealth or a certain complexity of estate where it helps to have someone in your corner, someone looking over your shoulder and making sure that you're making the right, most sensible financial decisions. I think a lot of times people think of a financial advisor and they think all they do is say, hey, this is what you should be investing in, and then name some index fund. And if that's all an advisor is doing for you, you do not have a good advisor. Because a financial planner should be offering you a whole host of holistic planning services. Let's start with goal setting. A CFP should help you on your quest for your short-term and long-term goals. Maybe that is starting a business, buying a home, saving for your child's education, and yes, of course, saving for your eventual retirement. They should also be willing to look over your income and your expenses, maybe spot areas for improvement, which would better align with your goals. If you're in the process of repaying debt, they should be able to recommend strategies that best have you paying down this debt. Retirement planning is probably the biggest thing that comes to mind when we think of a financial advisor or a CFP. And yes, they should be helping you plan your retirement, but that's more than just what you're invested in. They should look at optimizing the accounts you're investing in so that you can give your money the most optimal way to grow, but they should be looking down the road as well at your retirement years and starting to create the optimal withdrawal strategy for once you eventually get there, one that saves you a whole host in taxes. Your CFP should also help evaluate your insurance needs, whether that comes to life insurance, disability insurance, long-term care, and make recommendations accordingly so you are covered for the worst-case scenarios. They would also work with your attorney to help design your will and your trust and do proper designation of beneficiaries and look down the road and build your estate in a way that there was a smooth transition and one that had you paying the least amount in taxes. A good CFP would also look over the employee benefits package offered by your employer to ensure that you're optimizing what your employer has to offer. Or let's say you have a major life event. Say you have a child, there's a marriage, a divorce, a death. Your financial planner should help you navigate the ins and outs of this from a financial standpoint. And for clients who are interested in charitable giving, a good CFP can help to design a plan to meet these giving goals and to do this in the most tax-efficient way possible. So yes, long-term investment advice is really at the core of what we think of when we think about a financial planner. But if you are getting a good financial planner, They are really doing so much more than that. At the end of the day, it's impossible to know everything. We all have blind spots. Maybe our blind spots revolve around taxes or charitable giving or building an estate. At the end of the day, it's nice to have someone who has your back and can kind of be the expert in those areas. If you have someone who can help bring down your tax bill by $10,000 or prevents you from making a $100,000 mistake, that person could very well be worth their weight in gold. But I really do think you have to consider, one, what services they're offering, and two, what they're charging for those services. And here's the thing, when it comes to people who work in the financial space, you get a whole gamut. You have people who are very qualified, and then you have people who sort of lack any qualification whatsoever. You have people like CFPs, Certified Financial Planners, who are heavily credentialed. Then you have people who call themselves simply advisors, and an advisor is a completely unregulated term. It's like throwing the term natural on a bag of potato chips. It's not regulated. Cyanide is natural, doesn't mean we want to eat it. So first and foremost, before you work with anyone, make sure you do your due diligence and look into who they are and their qualifications, ask around for referrals, see if you get a name that tends to overlap. And for the love of all things holy, never, 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 ever go with anyone who you see listed in the comment section of a YouTube channel. All of those are complete scammers, and they're absolutely disgusting and despicable. They give the name of some supposed advisor who I'm sure does not exist and is rather just someone hiding in a basement waiting for someone to fall for their trap, give them their account information, at which point I'm sure they would deplete this person's savings. If you see comments like that, report them, and please note that it is a huge source of contention for me and many creators with YouTube. I wish they would police them better. Alternatively, the news outlet MarketWatch has this section where people write in about their advisors and where they express concerns, and you would be shocked at the number of stories you hear from these so-called financial professionals. There was this one article from a husband and wife who had roughly $1 million in assets, and their advisor convinced them to follow him to a new brokerage house, promised them a better fee rather than the 1% they had previously been paying, said he would charge them just 0.8% of assets under management. Now, these fees are in line with industry standards, but their advisor gave them a whole laundry list of things he was no longer willing to do based on a reduced fee. That included generate things like a long-term or short-term financial plan. The couple had to come up with their own financial plan. He wouldn't give any tax advice. He wouldn't go over any account rollovers. Basically, the article made it sound like this advisor at this point was only willing to say, here's what you should be investing in. Choose these index funds and you're good to go. That is a very hefty price to pay for something you could realistically be doing on your own. It doesn't sound like this advisor has his client's best interest at heart. It sounds like he's interested in doing less than the bare minimum. That is not an advisor that you need. There was another article about a gentleman with $1 million portfolio getting ready to sign with an advisor who was charging a fee of 1.12%. And he said he would be put in a 60-40 split stock bond portfolio and allowed to meet with his advisor 3 times a year. First and foremost, that seems like a pretty generic recommendation. I mean, how many times have we heard about a portfolio of a 60-40 split? So this advisor better be offering a whole host of comprehensive services. After all, this client would be paying over $11,000 a year. At this point, this advisor should absolutely be helping to reduce the lifetime tax burden of his client. He should help to create multiple buckets to draw on in retirement, create optimal withdrawal strategies, helping his client to create an estate plan to mitigate taxes when he goes to pass his estate on to his heirs or charity. He should be making sure his client is covered from an insurance standpoint, and so much more. So those 3 times a year meetings, they should be doing more than going over this generic 60-40 split when it comes to his investments. Otherwise, if that's all they're doing, this advisor's not worth it. There was another article where a woman was asking if her financial advisor was allowed to basically tell her how to spend her own money. She asked, if I want to call them up and say, hey, I want to withdraw a certain amount, are they allowed to try to browbeat me into not doing it? Or must they follow my wishes without persuading me otherwise? I understand it's in both mine and the advisor's best interest to keep it in, but if I need it, I need it? And the answer to that would definitely be no. Your advisor is not there to tell you how to spend or not spend your money. They're there to help advise you and help create a sound financial plan for you. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's your money to spend as you wish. And if you get the feeling that you're working with an advisor who's putting their interests ahead of yours, for instance, they're not letting you take money out of your account just simply for the sole purpose of maintaining a higher account balance so they get to collect a higher fee of assets under management, that is not right. Leave that advisor. And all of this is to show that when it comes to working with an advisor, you really do have to do your research, because it's an area where it's easy to find people who have a conflict of interest or people who don't have your best interest at heart. They could charge an industry standard fee like 1% or so, but if they're not offering you the whole host of comprehensive services, it's very unlikely that they're worth it. Or it could simply be that they don't have the knowledge base necessary to serve you. If that's the case, look for someone with a broader set of knowledge. At the end of the day, you continually want to vet the person you're entrusting with your finances. There are multiple different fee structures that advisors can use. They can use a flat hourly rate, they can use a flat fee, they can use a quarterly or an annual retainer fee, a percentage of clients' assets under management, commission-based, or a combination of commissions and fees. Personally, my favorites are the ones who are willing to work in a team dynamic. They want to work with your estate planning attorney. They want to work with your accountant. They want to make sure you're properly served in all directions, and ones who offer a flat fee. One key thing I'd like to point out is that there's a definite distinction between a fee-only advisor and a flat fee advisor. Fee-only advisors tend to charge a percentage of assets under management, and it's an accurate thing to say because that is their fee, whereas a flat fee advisor would charge a flat monthly fee or a flat hourly rate when you meet with them, and I think the flat fee advisors have a greater level of transparency. Working with an advisor is not an excuse to detach yourself from your money. If you choose to work with an advisor, you still want to be actively involved and know what is happening with your money. Still be very hands-on, because at the end of the day, no one is going to care more about your money than you do. I think working with an advisor can be beneficial. I think it can help you from making very costly mistakes, and I think it can save you a bundle in taxes, as taxes and wealth preservation become the main goals once you've accumulated substantial wealth. I don't really think it makes a lot of sense to work with an advisor early on when your net worth is lower. When you're in that accumulation phase, just focus on building up your net worth. Just stay invested and keep investing. But I do think you can hit a certain point of wealth where it feels nice to have a sounding board and someone who can help you from making very costly mistakes. Now, about paying assets under management or paying that 1% fee. Do I think it's worth it? Not really. I'm not huge on paying assets under management. I do think it can be beneficial to use an advisor who charges a flat fee. But that's just my 2 cents. What are your thoughts? Leave it in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye. Okay, trust and do designary. That's not even a word. Proper designation of beneficiaries. Or you could say designaries. That's going to be my new thing. Let's market that. Called professional financials in blah, blah, blah.